In our previous tutorial, we created a very good dice tracker where we could actually roll a six-sided die 100 times, and it will actually tell us the results of how many 1s, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6s were rolled. But the problem is we're stuck for a dice of anywhere from 1 through to 6. But if the user specified a 21-sided die, we're not able to track how many 8, 9, 10s or 21s were rolled. To do that, we're going to need to use an array. An array works much the same as variables like face 1, face 2, face 3, etc. But we can actually have what are called exponential arrays. So we can actually determine how long that array is. So rather than declaring each memory space, we can declare it in an array, and they're a little bit elastic. In other words, we could have an array of 2 or more. Now that or more can be anything the user specifies or the developer specifies. To do this, we're going to head up to our onload part. And above this, inside the class form, we're actually going to declare what's called a global variable. And we're going to dim a results. Now when declaring a global variable, you declare it outside of the private subs, but inside the class. You'll also need to specify the length of the variable. Because it is an array, it needs to be a minimum of 2 in length. Otherwise, it's just a single cell or a single variable. So arrays are normally 2 or more. Now you notice that we declare an array with an A, declaring it's an array, and also whatever we call the array, we also make it plural with an S. And once again, we still give it its type, so as integer. So what we've declared here, its type is integer, its scope is global because it's declared within the class, and therefore any private sub can actually see this variable here. An array is like a set of pigeonholes. At the moment, it's only holding 2. The number of pigeonholes we actually need is determined by the size of the dice. So on the form load, the current size is 2. But when we go to start the program, we need to actually change the size of this dice roll. To do that, we use a command under initialize called redim. And then we can actually redetermine in memory the variable. In this case, it's going to be a results. And then we can actually set its size. Now its size, we know it's going to be iDice. But iDice size needs to be collected from the user interface first. So at the moment, I'm redimming to iDice size, but iDice size is not collected till down here. Because we're not going to be using these variables anymore, I'm just going to delete them from our project. And then I'm going to delete the faces out of here. And I'm going to move the redim from the initialize part to below the input. So we're sort of breaking our structure from initialize now. Rather than being done here, it's actually being down the bottom part here. So in our program, we now declared a variable, an array. We've then collected the size of the dice. Then we've readjusted the array size to meet the size of the dice. So if they say a 21-sided die, we actually change results to 21. So rather than being fixed with 1 to 6, an array will actually have 1 to the actual dice size. So if it's 21, 1 to 21. And to be precise, it goes from indexes of 0 up to 21. Now what we'd like to do is actually then initialize all those variables. To do that, I'm going to use a loop again. So I'm going to use the for do loop again. So I'm going to use also I, and it's going to be equal 1 to iDice size. And then what I'm going to do is put a 0. So a results, and we want to index all of I. So if I is 1, it's going to use the first position of the array. I'm going to make that equal to 0. And then it'll go back up. And loop through this until it gets to the end of the dice size. The dice size is only 3, then it loops through this 3 times and puts 0 in there. Now once we've set them all to 0, we can then go into our loop. For I equals 1 to the number of rolls, and generates the I roll result. we can output the result, but rather than using the select case, we can actually index directly into the A results. Because we can actually say A results, if it rolls a 1, we can actually use the I roll result as the index to the array. So what this means is, if it rolls a 6 here, then go to the 6th position of this array and add 1 to it. Because we've set them all to 0, the first time it rolls a 6, it'll put 1 into the 6th position. Then when it rolls it again, and if it gets another 6, because there's already 1 in there, it'll add 1 to it, making it 2. So this will keep looping through and actually adding 1 to the appropriate dice roll until it finishes rolling all the dice. So then all we need to do is output the results. So I'm just going to delete this out now. And we do that until the number of rolls are completed. Now in our output, I'm just going to delete all the output at the moment. We can then work through the array and use the for do loop again for I equals 1, 2. And this time, what I'm going to use is a different command, and I'm going to go A results length. So it's going to look at the array, work out the length. So if there's 21 in there, because it starts at 0, it'll actually result back 22. But if I minus 1 off that, it'll actually give me 21. So from 1 through to 22 minus 1, which is 21, what do I want it to do? Well, I want a txt output, and I want the text part of it, and I'm going to plus equals, and then I'm going to write a concatenated string. So once again, I'm going to use the number, and then I'm just going to display what the number is. So if it's the number 1, but it's going to start at I at 1, so the first position of the array and the number of 1s that appear. So I'm going to use I dot toString is equal to, so the number of 1s is equal to, and then I can actually display what is in the A results array in that first position, because that's where it's collected all the number 1s. Now remember, that's going to be an integer, so we have to toString that one as well. And then I'm just going to put a clear line in. So once again, the end environment dot new line, and run our program now. So dice is 6 to 10, click roll. So there are my 10 rolls, and it actually shows how many come up. Let's change it to 100. The results show. Let's make it a little bit shorter and say, let's have 20 rolls, but I want the numbers up to 21. So we have our 20 rolls, and then the number of 1s are 0. The number of 21s are 1, and it shows you how many of the actual dice faces appear. So therefore now we can say 101 sided dice, roll it 1000 times, roll dice, and at the bottom of our list we can actually see the output of how many times each of the dice faces come up. So by using arrays, we can actually shorten the number of lines of code that we actually need in our project. We can use txt output clear bracket bracket, and that will also clear the text box. So I hope you found this tutorial useful in creating a dice tracker that will allow you to roll the dice any amount of times, and also track the number of times that particular number comes up or occurs. Remember to give the tutorial a like, and also subscribe to my channel, and have a look around my YouTube channel for other useful Visual Basic tutorials.